2.6 Proving angles congruent. In the figure below, the measure of angle 4 equals 90 degrees, the measure of angle 5 equals 58 degrees, and the measure of angle 6 equals 32 degrees. What are the measures of angles 1, 2, and 3? Looking at angle 1, it is across from angle 4, they're vertical angles, so their measures are going to be the same. So angle 1 is going to be 90. Angle 2 is a vertical angle with angle 5, which is 58, so this is going to be 58. And angle 3 is across from angle 6, which is 32, so the answer is going to be 32. And that's number 1. Number 2, in the figure below, the measure of angle 1 equals 5x, the measure of angle 2 equals y, and the measure of angle 3 equals 70. Find the value of each variable. So let's write it out. So substituting in, angle 1 is 5x, angle 2 is y, and angle 3 is 70. Now we see 5x and 70 are vertical angles, so we could set them equal to each other. Solving for x from there, we get x equals 14. Now to find y and 70 are a linear pair, which means they add up to 180. So subtract 180 from 70, and you get 110 for y. So let's type these in. X is 14, y is 110. That's number 2. Number 3, find the measures of the labeled angles. So let's write it out. So these two are vertical angles, so we set them equal to each other. Subtract x to the other side, we get 105 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, you get x is 21. So now to find the measures, we got to substitute it in. So 21 plus 105 is 126. And both the angles are the same, so your answer is going to be 126. So let's type it in. So 126. And 6x will also be 126. And that's number 3. Number 5. Complete the following proof by filling in the blanks. We're given angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and we're trying to prove that angle 6 is congruent to angle 4. So, statement 1 is our given. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. But now we have angle 3 is congruent to angle 6. But looking at them, they are vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. So that's why we can say number 2. We can infer through the transitive property that if angles 1 and 3 are equal, and angles 3 and 6 are equal, that 1 and 6 are going to be equal. Okay, and that's the transitive property. Statement 4 says angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Angles 1 and 4 are vertical angles, so the same thing. Vertical angles are congruent. And then, again for 5, angles 1 and 6 are congruent, and 1 and 4 are congruent. Therefore, 6 and 4 are congruent. And it will be the same reason as earlier, transitive property of congruence. And that is number 5. Number 6 says to prove the congruent complement theorem. So if two angles are complements of the same angle, then the two angles are congruent. And we're given angles 1 and 2 are complementary, and angles 3 and 2 are complementary. So what we must prove is that angles 1 equals angle 3. So angles 1 and 2 are complementary, and angle 3 and 2 are complementary because it's given. By the definition of complementary angles, angles 1 and 2 add up to 90. Complementary means add up to 90. And then 3 and 2 would also add up to 90. Then the measures of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2 by the transitive property of equality. You substitute in. So we subtract the measure of angle 2 from both sides, and doing that leaves us with the measure of angle 1 being congruent to the measure of angle 3. So angles with the same measure are congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And that is number 6. Number 8. Name 2 pairs of congruent angles in the figure and justify your answers. But looking at my choices, I see that A, G, and E is congruent to B, G, and D. They're vertical angles. So I literally just said that they are vertical angles. That's why they are congruent. So another pair of congruent angles are A, G, and F, and B, G, and C. So explaining why the angles from the previous step are congruent, it is given that C, G, and D, and E, G, and F are congruent. Those red arcs tell you that. Thus, the angles C, G, and E, and D, G, and F are congruent. Therefore, the angles A, G, and F, and B, G, and C are congruent because they are supplements of congruent angles. Good, and that's number 8.